Eamon, let's just return to Liverpool's chances in your view in this season's competition, because look, there is after a summer of mad spending and the PSG stuff and all that, there's a wider debate to be had about where this competition is going, where great clubs like Liverpool are going in it, 5 times winners of this competition.
Yes, I don't think, as Liam said, I don't think they can even dream about winning it. They just don't have the quality of players, and they can't go into the transfer market and buy what they need. But they're not the only great club. Arsenal aren't even in it this year, and in the foreseeable future it's hard to see Arsenal ever. Bayern Munich are interesting, they're in it, but I don't think they've got a chance, because the game has changed and inflation has hit the game like a storm, and it's going to take out clubs like Bayern Munich. Juventus are hanging on by their fingertips. AC Milan, 5 times winners. They're not going to be, they're not even in it. So something dramatic happened this summer when PSG, with Qatari money, decided to spend 220 million euros on Neymar. That was an inflationary spiral beyond our comprehension, really. And immediately the knock-on effect was Barcelona tried to spend 130 million of that on Coutinho, who's still at Liverpool. But I think something is going to have to be done to level the playing field. Otherwise, great clubs like Arsenal, Bayern Munich, AC Milan, Juventus, Celtic, a great club, winners in the past, battered to their worst ever European defeat last night at home to PSG with that rocket fuel that they have, Mbappe and Neymar. So the game is undergoing dramatic change, and it's worrying for a lot of people. And I'd be fascinated to hear Liam and Didi's view, because they come from 2 great clubs and have played for great clubs.
Well, Didi, the Liverpool view first of all, but I'm just interested as well, as Eamon alluded to, with your background at Bayern Munich, like how are a super club, a superpower like Bayern Munich, who've won it 5 times as well, how are they looking back at what's happened this summer and what's going to happen into the not too distant future?
Well, I think it worries them, because as Eamon said, I don't see them as contenders this year. That's partly down to the fact that Alonso and Lam finished this summer and are no longer part of the team. We shouldn't forget that they still spend 100 million quid on players, but they bought 4 or 5 players for that sort of money when Paris went out and spent 400 million on 2 players. What it causes is a lot of friction in the team, because Lewandowski gave an interview last week saying, I think in the future, if we want to be competitive, if we want to win the Champions League again, you've got to pay these sort of fees. But Bayern Munich made it clear that they said we won't pay 100 million quid for a player. So I think what it does, as Eamon says, the knock-on effect, because it's not only the transfer fee, it's also the wages. The wages are inflationary. So if you want to get the top players, you've got to match the wages of Manchester City, Man United, Paris and Barcelona and Real Madrid. And some of the clubs are simply not able to do that. And this is why, if it's not regulated, I think we see the same 2-3 teams in the final for the next few years, because potentially, if Paris wants to spend another £500 million next season, they could do.
And Liam, we just see shots of Coutinho warming up at Anfield. Like, is that a victory for Liverpool over the big mega money that they managed to keep him at the club, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. But, you wonder what his attitude is going to be going into this new season. He looks a good lad to me, so I think once he starts playing, he'll do his very, very best. But the same can't be said of a lot of players who maybe have only 1 year left on their contract. So, but to go back to Liverpool's chances, I think it's sad, when the competition's starting off, that a team like Liverpool and maybe a team like Bayern Munich, we're talking them down, that they can't possibly have a chance of winning this. And I think something has to be done. There's supposed to be financial fair play. Yeah. I don't understand the technicalities and the ins and outs of it, but it certainly hasn't worked. And I would agree with Eamon. We want to see a more level playing field, that when a team like Liverpool are starting this competition, they have a real chance of winning it.
Well, Eamon mentioned of financial fair play. The UEFA president, Alexander Seferin, on Monday said, and this is a direct quote from the ECA General Assembly, he says, let's put our cards on the table and be honest. The biggest challenge over the next few years will be a competitive balance. How can we continue to develop football in Europe and avoid widening the gulf between the most powerful and the rest? He says that's the million-dollar question. They're looking for answers.
Yeah, but they have to, first of all, admit that there's a problem before you look for answers. And they're beginning to understand it. People like Karl-Heinz Rummenigge at Bayern Munich, a great player and a thinker about the game. The president of La Liga in Spain also, was very critical of what PSG are doing. Arsene Wenger called it financial doping. But you're competing here against a government, the Qatari government. And as far as the English clubs are concerned, Italian, French and Spanish clubs, apart from Barca and Real, don't get any television money. I mean, the injection of television money into English football is, a huge development in the game. And we do need the game to be regulated without being over-regulated. But a conversation needs to start. Because if you're a Bayern Munich fan, an Arsenal fan, or a Liverpool fan, or I think a Manchester United fan, I don't think Manchester United have any chance of winning the Premier League this year. They haven't spent enough money.
Haven't spent enough?
No, and they've spent like 200 million plus. But as Didi says, it isn't just the transfer fee, it's the wage inflation. And Tottenham, for example, their players are all in revolt. Danny Rose came out and said it, because they know other clubs in the Premier League, like Manchester United and Manchester City, are paying multiples of what their players are getting. So there is a need in football to begin a conversation to save what is best in the game. Italy is the great, and Germany are great footballing nations. We can't let them die. And that's what's in danger happening in Italy, isn't it, Liam? And in Germany?
Well, you look at Ajax, for example, very quickly. They're a great European Cup team. They don't even make the qualifier. They don't even make it now, Dara, into the knockout stages. So I think something really has to be done to make it a more level playing field and make it more interesting for everybody.
Didi?
Well, something needs to be done. I think we all agree on it. How are you going to do that? Don't think there's any short fix. The problem I see that if you say we regulate it now, Man United may say, well, they spent $500 million last summer, so why can we not spend the same amount this summer if we feel we have to and we've got the money? I think you need to start discussions. I think you've got to bring parity. You've got to bring all the top clubs to the table and see what we're going to do. Then you need to look at the TV money. That's another thing. It can't be that if Bayern Munich wins the Champions League, they get a multiple or 3 or 4 times as much money as if Leicester would have won the Champions League last season. So that's another thing. If we say we regulate it or we make it a level playing field, you've got to look. It can't matter whether you've been in the Champions League 20 years or 1 year. I think everybody has to get the same sort of money if they do progress to the quarters, semis, and so on. So I think that a lot needs to be done and has to be done. The only way is to bring them all to the table. But I like what the UEFA president says, because I think he knows that there is a problem, there needs to be something done, and hopefully it'll change it for the better.
Okay, all right, guys, thanks a lot. It's a subject we'll come back to for sure, and I suppose as these numbers and the transfer fees and the wages, you'll hear more about those as the weeks and months progress. But